Danvers State Hospital, with its towering Gothic architecture and sprawling grounds, stood as a haunting reminder of a bygone era. The very air seemed heavy with the weight of history. Founded in the late 1800s as the Danvers Insane Asylum, the institution had housed thousands of patients, many of whom were subjected to cruel and inhumane treatments. It had been the site of lobotomies, electroshock therapy, and even experimental surgeries, all in the name of treatment. But after its closure in 1992, Danvers had taken on a new life as a place of legend and rumor. Its long corridors, now corridors of whispers, its sealed wards home to unseen horrors. Lena, Devon, and their team of paranormal researchers entered Danvers with the same skepticism they had carried into every investigation. But as they set foot inside, they couldn't shake the sense of being watched, as if invisible eyes were tracking their every move. The hospital's labyrinthine halls twisted and turned, endless and confusing, like the mind of a patient locked inside. Their goal for the night was simple: to examine the ventilation system. It had become a point of focus after several ghost hunters reported hearing strange voices emanating from sealed ducts, voices that didn't seem to belong to any living person. The whispers were always the same: incoherent fragments of sentences, cries for help, and even the occasional mention of specific names that had been linked to Danvers patients from long ago. The team began their search in the lower levels, where the ventilation system was particularly dense. The air was thick with dust, the musty scent of old stone mingling with the faint smell of decay. The walls were lined with exposed pipes leading into the ceiling where the ducts ran. As the investigators set up their equipment, the air grew inexplicably cold. The temperature dropped several degrees in an instant, making their breath fog in the air. Lena, standing near a vent in the corner of a dimly lit hallway, felt a shiver run down her spine. It wasn't the cold that caused it, but the unease, the overwhelming sensation that something or someone was nearby. Suddenly, one of the EVP recorders crackled to life. It wasn't the usual hiss or static, but a clear, coherent voice. It was faint at first, like the whispers of a far-off conversation, but then it grew louder. "Don't listen to them." Lena's heart skipped a beat. The voice was male, hoarse, strangled. She motioned for the others to be quiet, and the room fell into a heavy silence. Devon pulled out the recorder and rewound the audio. The voice spoke again, now clearer, but its words were unsettling. "They're here. They will never leave." The voice sounded familiar, too familiar. Lena's eyes widened. She felt a gut-wrenching connection to the words, though she couldn't explain why. As they continued their investigation, they began to find strange objects lodged in the ventilation ducts. Old patient records, tattered and yellowed with age, containing names of people who had disappeared or been declared dead under mysterious circumstances. But what made Lena's stomach turn was what came next. Among the scattered papers were personal belongings, items that had once belonged to patients from other asylums. A locket, a broken watch, and most chillingly, a blood-stained letter. The handwriting on the letter was illegible, save for one line that sent chills down Lena's spine. "We are still here." Devon's hand trembled as he picked up the letter. "This isn't possible. These people shouldn't be here." The team moved deeper into the bowels of the hospital, following the maze of ducts that seemed to go on forever. The further they descended, the more oppressive the air became. It felt as if they were being drawn into something alive. The ventilation system had become more than just a physical structure. It was a conduit, a vessel for something darker, something that had been trapped in the building, waiting to be released. As they reached the final vent in the basement, the voices grew louder, more distinct. The EVP recorder now recorded clearer words. "He's coming for you." The words echoed in their ears, vibrating through the walls of the building. And then, in the silence that followed, a sound, a footstep, echoed down the hallway. But it wasn't just any footstep. It was the sound of shoes dragging. Lena spun toward the source, her breath catching in her throat. And that's when she saw it. At the far end of the hallway, in the faint glow of their flashlight, a shadow moved. It wasn't human. It was tall, too tall, its form shifting in and out of focus. The air seemed to vibrate as it moved closer. "It's him," Devon whispered, eyes wide in horror. The entity stopped at the end of the hall. Its shape seemed to waver in the dim light, and the coldness that had settled over them deepened. Without warning, the lights flickered, then shut off entirely, plunging the group into darkness. The whispers in the ducts grew louder, now mixed with guttural growls and faint cries. Lena's pulse raced. Who was this presence? And why was it still here, hidden in the walls of Danvers?